I'm going to say it. I like this comp. But Chobra, this comp is garbage. KO, nobody uses KO anymore. Gekko, it doesn't matter if they got nerfed to the least, they still got nerfed. Solo Brim on Bind, nobody does that. You can't win with a solo controller on Bind. Well, I mean, first of all, they did win, so that's just factually not true. But second of all, when I say I like this comp, that does not mean I think it's the comp that everyone should be running. That does not mean I think this comp is unbeatable. That does not mean I think this comp works against everybody either. But I think, first of all, I actually do quite like it in the current scheme of things. I think it can work pretty decently against a lot of other teams, and most likely what you predict they'll be playing in the current patch, right, in Stage 1. But also specifically against Gen G, I think it was really good, and I think GE actually fumbled a lot of their execution, and if they played it better, it would have been an even bigger stomp. The first round we're taking a look at is round 2. Now, they end up losing this round. You can tell that GE is on an eco. They lost the pistol, so it's not looking excellent. They are an attack, so you kind of have to all in, right? Generally, you're going to have to all in with any type of post plan. It was the same thing with the Cypher Lock. You have to kind of take contact and be able to break through. But it already kind of shows how they will be able to force a lot of these fights coming in the coming rounds. So, if we take a look, Zinx and Locky are spotted. Zinx does get a kill, so you don't have the KO anymore, but they notice that Zinx is on top of Tube, and then you have Locky who moved out to Elbow. With that information, the Neon is only designated while you see Zinx getting Deadlock Gravnetted, so there is no backup. Wingman goes through a safe plant, and it's all good and done. Now, the post plant, obviously, they have weaker guns, so they're not going to be able to fight through this. They end up not being able to obviously defend the post plant, but the idea being that you put down these caterpillar smokes, you don't even care if the backside is filled up, because as long as you deny them approaching the spike and you only target one other area, whether it's Elbow or maybe you have something like Hookah, wherever else it might be, you can send the Wingman to plant, right? So you send little Wingman going into plant. That means you still have everyone to be able to fight and protect that. The Brim Smoke's a little bit difficult to get through. They even sent the Gravnet for safety. And so it's just the Neon who's going to be designated to take out the Fade. Now, generally, if anyone's trying to throw you to once you see the Neon, you're late. The Neon gets you. And so the idea is, hey, we send the Neon. All you got to do is take out Lockya, right? Or at the very least, draw his crosshair away enough that we're able to get the trade. And then the plant is pretty much guaranteed. And they're just not able to hold it because the weaponry's not exactly there. So the next round we're looking at is round 4. Now GE has won their bye round, and now it's that ever important round 4 where whoever wins is able to really start swinging that economy in their favor. GE, as you can tell, has already worked towards B main, which that's also something to talk about with something like the Gekko KO. Makes it a lot easier. You know, you can have multiple different lineups for utility in Garden as well, in the little octagon or whatever, to push them out. And then you're able to incrementally take space over on Garden. You will see that the 0 point was used, so that's been used to make sure that they can take the space, and then they just hold. Now, a big part of this is the fact that Gen G doesn't play Sentinel. Almost nobody does these days, which means nobody has passive information on the site. Nobody has guaranteed passive delay nor information to make sure to say, hey, it's actually the other side of the map. So generally, what do people have to do? You have to push out if you want information. Now, before, the Yoru used to be able to do this very, very easily because your gate crash would last forever, and you could push all the way out here while all the way having set the gate crash here and just cover the entire map. But you can't do that anymore, can you? So Genji is using the Yoru, but what we're going to notice as we start to play this out is that the Yoru basically has to kind of pick and choose where to send the gate crash, when to send it, and then you're kind of stuck in no man's land. So GE takes B main, and then immediately a pop flash comes out, which forces a reaction. Toxic screen goes up, and the counter Fade Haunt. Now, yes, a better team might not have sent that Haunt because, right, you just let the flash run out. You're still not hearing anyone from the person inside Hookah. You're like, okay, wait, hold on, the execute's not there. So you hold on to the util. However, for GE, they test the waters. Haunt comes out. Toxic screen goes up. You know that there is no guaranteed information coming in. You know that they're expecting a push in through B. And so you're still waiting for the push out from the A side. And you have the Brimstone getting the free kill. Now, why did Zinx have to do that? Well, because his gate crashes don't last forever. And once he heard that, he thinks, well, I have to go get information to see if it really is going to be hit because I can't rotate as quickly. So he gets picked off. Meanwhile, you still have the Deadlock, who really just needs to get back to the site once the spike is planted. So he's lurking. Now Crystal's going to get a nice little kill here. A little bit of an over-adjustment from Charon on trying to make sure that he avoids the next reaction shot with his movement. So, yeah, unfortunate that the Deadlock is going to get that kill. But either way, the spike's already been planted. The wall is actually quite late, but once it goes down, it is absolutely over because you still have Fragment and Incendiary. In fact, you even have the Brimstone ultimate as well. By the time you get here, you're just not defusing that spike. If this spike goes down and you do not have a big numbers advantage and taking out at least one of these three that can have a molly, you are 90% just not defusing this spike. Now, going into round 10, you'll notice that GE had a nice streak of rounds, 5 in a row, 2 of them resulting in the spike actually going off, but eventually Gen G is able to react to it with their own timeout. They get 2 rounds in a row, and GE says, we're going to stop this right here. We're going to call the timeout. Now, a big part of what I think happened, if I remember correctly, is that they kind of stopped going for the big all-ins. They were trying to get a little greedy with, a little bit of a fake here, fake there. Gen G starts to get a read on that, is able to react. And so what does GE do? Oh, right. I mean, they have to pick and choose. So either they just gamble stack from the beginning, or they can't really stop us if we just go in. So instead of Crystal going for these timing lurks that he was doing in a lot of the previous rounds, and eventually Gen G figuring that out and waiting for him, they're going to have everyone ready. No, so you hear the calls, right? It's going to be the net with the flash. So that just guarantees the push up. You get a little bit of a reaction. Gravnet lands. And now you know that, okay, we have guard and control for full. You got the C's out. And then you also had, I believe, the earlier Prowler out as well. So that's 2 pieces of util that the defenders would want. And again, Caterpillar smokes. They are actually kind of close. It actually allows Zinx to stay on the little box and try to hide out. He's trying to actually get a sightline here. But the point is they literally... GE just wants just this much space. You just want to be able to plant. Why? Because you're going to send the wingman, and then you're going to block off this side this time so that nobody can help swing out or spam easily out from tube or from back site. And they've noticed throughout all the previous rounds that Lakia has been playing solo on elbow. That's his position. Other people are playing either on site, in tube, in hookah, wherever else it might be. So again, Yudoton, it's your job to push in. We're going to just make sure that we can just send Wingman in, and all of us are going to be ready to answer back because we know we have a numbers advantage. Now, they don't know, but they're pretty sure because Textures had the op. That's one of the reasons that Gen G was able to start coming back, and that wasn't on this side, so it has to be on the other side. And, I mean, they're generally, Gen G's not going to just gamble stack 4-1 from what we've seen so far in 2026. So a push in, Yudoton gets the nice kill. Now the wingman gets spammed, but that gives away his position. And Zinx not able to get that pick. If he had gotten that pick, it might be a little different. But he only has 1 flash. He sends it. He's not able to get any information off of it. And he's just kind of stuck there. He's like, well, do I run all the way back? I don't know if they've pushed back sight through the other smoke. I mean, you actually see the Deadlock wall, but I guess they didn't fully see it. Right? So you're just wondering, like, did they get through it? Did they not? Do they have an angle through that Deadlock wall? Am I safe to move away? Eventually, he gets taken on by Patman. I mean, that's just a confidence peak. And Texture gets here, but by that time, 2v4, once again, Mosh Pit available, Fragment available, and Incendiary available. Again, they didn't need any of these because Gravnet forces fights or forces retreats. I mean, same thing with really good pop flashes from the flash drive. And by that point, you've also had enough conditioning on both sides that you kind of know what the B setup is. You just target and punish Lakia. He's already used this important piece of util that could stop the Neon or anybody else coming in for the trade. It's GG. Basically, it's quite all in, but as post-plant compositions go. But specifically against Gen G, what we've seen from them so far in 2026 is that they're quite slow to react. They come in with their own game plan. When they're allowed to execute it, it has been good. Even in kickoff, when they were allowed to play their plays, it's been good. But what if you just never give them the chance? What if you just all in it, just barrel roll through? I mean, that's the whole thing about the double duelist right now as well. But you can kind of accomplish the same thing because the wingman's carrying the spike. So Patman is able to walk around and look for firefights and look for trades. So you still accomplish the same thing while guaranteeing a lot more post-plant power. And since you're not playing Double Duelist oftentimes wants to go for extra reach to try to get that extra delay and then slowly retreat back as you're fighting them, or maybe you just demolish them all as they're not quite ready for the retake yet. But you don't need to find that timing. You don't even care if they're here or not. They could get here, and then they still couldn't get in. It's still going to take them another 20 seconds to try to get through all of the Deadlock utility, and then they have to force out all the mollies, and then they just don't have time. Now, the big question is does this work against better teams? I mean, some of these rounds, for instance, if Zinx had gotten the kill on Patman, yeah, the spike wouldn't go down right away, but I would presume that at that point, Zinx, it would still be smarter for him to try to retreat and group with his teammates, at which point you would still have 2 mollies, and if they get that down, you still can't break through on the site easily, you still don't have elbow control. I would still favor GE in that sense, but obviously, at that point, you get shot, you die. So maybe the other team's able to win. The bigger question is now that you've seen this, will other teams be more prepared to react to it, right? But they throw fakes, sometimes they don't. So the question is okay, your protocol, is it once you see util, we push out the other side? Because, I mean, Deadlock, while she is a sentinel, she's not the type that automatically detects all the lurks. Or is it once you see util, you hold, and then you immediately flood back, and you just try to hold the line? But if you hold the line even halfway, the Deadlock denies the post plant, right? The retake, rather. So I do think it still poses a decent question where a lot of teams, if they're not actually well drilled in the current meta and they're also playing Double Duelist, which also generally has to take contact and push out and take aggressive angles to get defensive information, I think it can be good. It should be said they needed a good attacking half. And I don't think they actually got the attacking half they wanted. I think they should have gone for more. But it does make it a little bit dicier. But eventually, they're still able to accomplish the win. So the first half is over. 7-5 in favor of GE. Now, I believe when I was streaming, I said this had to have been at least, that's a terrible late, but at least an 8-4. I think ideally you're looking at a 9-3 because of what your composition accomplishes. Now, I do think you have ways to try to defend, but if you want to do it perfectly, I think it requires really, really good kind of nuance, right? In terms of timings and staggering your util, things like that. And we'll get around to how GE circumvented that difficulty level. But I would say that if it was 8-4, it would have just felt a lot more comfortable. But either way, let's look at the defensive pistol, because I thought this was actually quite interesting. Before the round actually starts, I want to mention, I've also said this, Gen G, the one strength they showed, other than, individual prowess at moments, was their set plays when executed at the time they want, right? If they get to play their game, their playbook, those plays were good. Oftentimes, it always, one of the first times I said this very clearly about a team was 2024 Riddle Order. One of the reasons they were able to dominate in Japan was that their plays were good. Their retake execs were good, right? Their execs onto site were very, very good. But it also required them to all kind of get there and wait and do whether it was out loud or not, do a 3-2-1 count and then go in, which meant if you pressure them ahead of that or you delay them even further with util that makes it scarier to try to break through, whether it's Sentinels or Brim Smokes, they struggle. So same idea for Gen G. If they're allowed to get up to the line of scrimmage that they want to establish, that gets a little bit scary. You allow them to actually start looking into their strengths. But if you just never let them get there, they have problems. They're not a team that currently can quickly react. And we're going to see this even in the pistol. You see Autumn coming in with 3 smokes, and then you have the Deadlock util all set up here. You have the traps basically to allow for a staggered retreat and a double up in hookah to try to punish. You still have a flash drive and a 0 point, and we're going to see those come out soon. You already have a sky smoke in a short, and that kind of pressures Gen G and says, whoa, like this is smoke you put up when you want to push out. So these guys have a short. Okay, if they're pushing out there, who knows? Also, it's pistol. GE sometimes plays aggressive, like maybe they're going to push out everywhere, so they're just holding back. But with this smoke here, they don't have a sentinel, so they can't watch their flank. So they're thinking, okay, we got to do something about this smoke. Now, it does appear that Gen G already has made up their mind that they want to go A. So they say, okay, all right, we're going to have to start clearing A short, right? No one's peeked out of A long either. We have no information there. They have no other better information of getting there. Why? Because Lakia has chosen to buy a sheriff, which is generally quite the trend these days, no matter what agent you're playing, because util, what's that in the current patch in Valorant? But obviously, this is quite hurting them right now because they only have one hot, and they obviously have to use it when they try to want to exec into the site. Now, as this gets in, yep, as the casters are saying, you only have one Euro Flash, so that makes it difficult. Now the smoke clears, it's at a minute, and GE starts to back off because they also have no information. They're like, wait. They like still aren't acting? Okay, well, let's at least check. Like, are they in fact in A short? And this actually ends up as bait. They note multiple. 0 point goes out because they haven't had information on showers for a little while. And during that, a pop flash overlaps comes out from Javi as well. So he gets information. Nobody's actually taken that free space on showers. I'm going to pop flash for you, and you're going to peek out. You actually notice multiple. Okay, so they're stacked over on A short. I mean, obviously somebody's trying to go through Karen's now trying to take showers, but they weren't ready. It's not an immediate execute and a pinch onto A, multiple on A short. All right, they've got no sentinels. It's time for the B duo to start moving out. Why? Because you can still delay with another Brim Smoke. The toxic screen comes up right as the Brim Smoke goes down, and they are scared to push through. You only have that one flash. You don't know exactly where everyone is. You don't have a good pinch set up, and now you're afraid of the flank, and Gen G's just kind of stuck. They either had one option to blindly rotate to B or try to just push through A. Now, that's the last smoke, so they're trying to wait it out, and it's not going to go very well. The timing on the push from the flank is very, very good. Autumn already just gets one, and now you're already out of time. As soon as that first shot comes through, the duo pushes out from behind, and it is just carnage. I mean, Grafnet comes out at the end as well, just to make sure. And that's the pistol round. So even within the pistol, they go util heavy instead of heavy sheriffs. And knowing Gen G's tendencies, they don't even get to approach the site. Now, round 16, GE starts off with 3 rounds in a row in the second half, and round 16 starts to show a bit of a trend that I didn't really like, but then watching the split actually made me accept at least what they were going for. I don't even know maybe if it was planned or not. Maybe the players were kind of just feeling it, but what we're about to witness is GE going for heavy stacks and then going for retakes. Now, the retakes weren't quite clean enough for me to appreciate what they were doing, but I do think that's something that this composition has, I guess, the freedom to do, right? You can either try to play really good spaced out util for delay forever and ever, especially against a slower paced team, which I think would have worked actually perfectly fine against Shenji, or you can push out aggressively, similar to how you would take space early on the attacking side with things like the Dizzy and the Flash, double flashes, 0 point, you have a Gravnet, take that space, and then you're able to go in for the retake. They don't have a Senti. You could go over the flank. You can clear out corners with mollies easily. You can deny them with, the peaks as you're trying to hold the diffuse, things like that. So there's a couple options here. But how they do that, I think, was at least good. Because 2 rounds ago, you had Crystal sitting in A. The previous round, Crystal was on B site. And now he comes back A site. They go for the big pop flash so that they get easy space. And they're going to set up the deadlock wall on showers. Meanwhile, they're able to push out of B main and get some information. Eventually, they have to use a Brim Smoke just to hold. And then they just put up the deadlock traps for information and just bail. 4-man push. Now, I presume this is because you saw nobody here. You got no reaction there. You saw nothing on B main. You denied them. So you're thinking, Gen G, they're going to have to just wait, right? Because we're not seeing them over on A. Right, it's not a big rush. But worst case, you can try to delay Crystal, and then we'll have 4 people and go for the retake. So I get the idea, because now you see that trip. The Neon's still able to get back pretty quickly, but the problem is you still had no information on Hookah, and because you kind of walled off the TP, you can't go for the TP easily. It does eventually disappear. And so now you have to retake from CT. Now, generally, these retakes, I actually don't remember off the top of my head if round 16 was a clean one or not. The retakes were not that good, where I'm wondering, like, okay, why did you give A-Site for free? A little bit iffy. So, not a big fan of how they did it. But if you watched the split afterwards, I think something you noticed is that this isn't Gen G's strength. What I mean by that is chaotic firefights, right? So this one Gen G wins. But if you heavy stack and then meet them before they get to the site, like I said, before the line of scrimmage, Gen G panics a little bit. They did that in kickoff. They did it again in this match, especially on split. So if that's the tendency they were trying to target of like just drag them into the chaos, okay, I get it. Especially because if you can also fight like outside of the site, you have a very good force the fight type of composition with the Gekko and KO. So I get that. I do think the timings were a little bit poor, right? Trying to get this space and then going. Gen G gets the read on it a couple of times. You have rounds like these where you gave up all the space and then you actually didn't have an answer for clearing out all the space to be able to go in for the retake yourselves. So a little bit questionable because I think, if you're thinking, okay, this is a team that needs set plays, like, couldn't you just have a ton of mollies and delay them time and time again? And then eventually they rotate to the other side where the Deadlock's waiting. You're holding onto the wall and you're able to delay it. I think that's another way you could have played it, but maybe, that would have been iffy for the Deadlock because you miss a timing and that site's free as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of a weakness. Either way, I think the defensive side is a weaker side of this composition, but they chose one way. I think stylistically, you see on split why it works against a team like Gen G and the current roster of Gen G that struggles with that bit of chaos and the early aggression pushing out. But on bind, a little bit messier. Eventually, they still win the map, though. I like these comps. I like this comp. I think even against some of the other teams, even within Pacific, it could work because now that they've shown the aggression, if they do go the route of delay, Deadlock to, kind of cut off or completely ruin at least one execute on the other side, you should still be able to manage the defense a little bit, and hopefully your attack is a little bit more cleaned up. Now, I don't think this is a comp that works for the entire stage, right? I don't think this is a comp that says, okay, bind is like GE's strongest map. I don't think it quite gets there. Eventually, against stronger teams, they're going to figure out your tendencies. You're going to start to run out of limited options. But I think it works in the same logic that Icebox did, that if the old Icebox did, in that if currently the meta that most teams are choosing is double dive, double entry, just boom, we dump whatever little util we have, we go and we take the site, we push for a little reach, and then bada bing, bada boom, that's our site. On defense, same idea, push out aggressively, take space, and then rotate. I think this works, not because it's double initiator, but because it's double flash plus really, really good delay / post plant. It's an insane amount of post plant. So in that sense, I think it's worth playing in the current landscape. Also, just to note, in the old Icebox, like 2024, when Gekko KO was quite popular, especially among Sentinels and Gen G during both of the Masters runs, you would have to play a Killjoy because while mid sucked in Icebox, you actually needed mid control because otherwise suddenly the map is just way easier for the other team. But in bind, you don't have a mid. So in fact, you can actually double down on the post plant with something like Deadlock. So I like it. Doesn't mean I think it's the absolute best answer, but I like it. I think they proved why it can be good. Whether it works again, I mean, listen, if they are able to, I will put it this way. If they'll play this again against one of the other teams, Team Secret, outside of Team Secret, in their group, and get at least one more win, I think it's a successful composition. If they can't win a single other one, I think it did its job. And maybe they don't even play the same composition. Maybe it was specifically against Gen G, in which case I think it's even better. But that remains to be seen. But let me know down in the comments below what you thought about them picking a very unorthodox composition, especially in the current landscape here on bind, solo controller Brim, seeing things like the Gekko and KO return, the Deadlock return. Let me know if you also would like to see more compositions like this, or if you think everyone should just play the absolute strongest things right now, which is Waylay Neon until Neon or Waylay gets nerfed. Well, that's it for this video. Of course, we're doing watch parties for all the Pacific matches, so definitely tune in, and I'll see you guys next time.